Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So surprise, I have a 355 video. So many of you guys know that I sold the 355 for the 430 a few years back, but I still have some 355 videos that I just hadn't edited yet. So this one's gonna be on exhaust. So the 355 has the best sounding exhaust out of like all cars. The 430 I've tried to emulate and get the sound up there, and I've come close. But still, the 355 is the best winner. So this video is going to show you how to install the exhaust on the car, and plus I got clips from the 4 exhaust I've tried: stock, Larini, Capristo Twin Sound, and I'll try to get permission to add MS Racing and Tubi on there from other clips. So anyway, stay tuned. I think this is going to be a good video. Now back up top, we're going to do 3 things. We're going to take out all the air boxes, which are just flathead screwdrivers, and 10mm bolts around the perimeter. All right, now with the air boxes out and the mass airflow unplugged, the next thing we're going to do is take off the heat shield for the muffler. Now with the heat shield off, it's time to take off the bumper. So the reason we had to do this first is there's just 2 bolts there. We have to get those off first. The other things that have to come off before the bumper comes off, there is lights for both the license plate and the 2 reflectors. To get the rear bumper off, we have, I believe, 13mm here, 2 of them, 2 17mm here on either side, plus the connections for the lights here. Now with both, or actually all 3 lights unplugged and those 4 bolts undone, 6 bolts, we can go ahead and slide the bumper right off. With the tape, you really don't have to worry about it because it's not going to get stretched up. All right, now you can see the bumper off and our Capristo is exposed. So the next thing we got to do is actually physically remove the Capristo. That involves undoing, you can do just these clamps. We're going to do all 4 because I'm replacing all these bolts. So we're going to do all 4 of these bolts first. And then up here on the top, you can see where the muffler bolts in up top, here and here. And then as well as on the bypass valve. Okay guys, so now it's time to put on the sound system on the 355. So kind of going to be showing you how to do this too, but basically what we're going to need to do, leave everything kind of loose because the aiming of the tips is kind of the tricky part, I guess. So right now we have the manifold and the Y pipe all loose. We're going to put this on there, and then once the bumper's on, we're going to position it and then tighten everything down. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this in the car. All right. Lifting the Capristo into its general location. Okay. Once it's there, we can now install one of the bolts just to kind of hold it into place without the bypass there. And now we can come over here and start installing all this hardware. Now that the muffler supported on the side, we can take the weight off again and install the bypass valve. I'm just going to snug that up a little bit so it doesn't move. We still have a little bit of rotation adjustment that we can do. Anyway, so now let's move on to the bottom and we'll try to get everything else lined up. So now underneath the car we can put on our, whatever these are. They're kind of like a V-band clamp, but they're more substantial. So with everything loose, you should be able to move the muffler around to get them to line up. So install the clamps on both sides, and it's okay to go ahead and tighten these down. Okay, so now it's time to install the bumper. Like I said, make sure you put that masking tape on there. Otherwise, you risk kind of scratching your car up as this slides in. So with the masking tape, makes it an easy one-man job. So the proper body gap right here is 10 millimeters, and it actually, the idea is that it matches the rest of the car's, you know, little line that it has here. So you don't need to try to get it to sit up flush. You really won't be able to anyway. So what we're gonna do is get it up. We're gonna kind of set this side first, and then set it on the other side, and then set this part separately. So here, I'll show you what I mean. So what I do is, honestly, eyeballing it is probably your best bet. So I just put my drill on there, and then kind of get it close. Okay. Now we're going to go over the other side, and we're going to make sure that the gap here to here and here to here is the exact same on either side. So now looking at the back, I can see that there's a very consistent, even gap. So the next step is pretty easy. Now that this side is cemented in place, we can simply just adjust this to make it an even gap all the way across. So remember, the goal is to have this line match this line over here. So now with the Capristo on, we've got all the bolts loose. So like I said, we have the actual muffler mounts loose up here. We got the bypass loose, as well as both the header and the cap bolts loose. And so what that lets us do is everything can move around. So what I did is I moved the tips exactly where I want them. So my goal is to be completely centered inside each of the vents. I like them kind of tucked up high personally, and it kind of gives you a nice uniform look all around. You also can adjust the distance. So we're looking for exactly, you know, maybe, you know, it looks like it's like 3/4 inch there, 3/4 inch there, you know, there's a curve of a bumper. So I did use the jack. I'm not lifting anything with the jack, but I'm simply using it to hold the muffler in place, because you can actually move it around. So once it's all in place, all you simply got to do is just tighten everything down, and in theory it will stay. It might come down, I guess maybe a 1/4 inch, but once you tighten it, everything does generally stay exactly in the same spot. So before I tighten these, you'll notice that these are actually springs that the muffler's mounted on. I kind of put a tiny bit of preload on them, maybe like 10 pounds of force down on this bracket before I tightened them. But anyway, now we're going to go through and just go ahead and tighten all the other bolts, and the muffler will be fully supported. right, so there are a few other brands, but those are kind of the 6 main ones that go around on the forums. I guess there's the Challenge exhaust, Nuvolari, I guess, exhaust, but a little bit lesser known ones. But either way, hopefully those came through good. Let's kind of talk about each individual one. I'll start with the stock one. Now, the stock one sounds good. It has a good overall tone. Heck, it is a 355, so it doesn't get masked too much. But I will say the highlights of the 355 kind of get muffled through it, almost like you're listening to a good set of speakers through a blanket or whatever. Obviously, it's a lot quieter, and then with the valves closed, it's completely silent, like way too silent in my opinion. So that's kind of summary on that. Next, we'll get into the Capristo Sound 3. So by far, this one is my favorite, and the reason it's my favorite is because it just sounds the most tuned. In other words, it has this tone to it, kind of a little bit like a brass or instrument, like even like a trumpet a little bit maybe. But during those mid-range tones, when you're kind of just driving around most of the time, it sounds amazing. And when you're on full throttle, it has the higher F1 pitch scream that everybody loves. So that one by far is my favorite. Also, when you put it in when you close the valves, I guess, it becomes very quiet and normal sounding. So that one is my favorite. Now, the twin sound, on the contrary, is by far the worst sounding one. It sounds absolutely terrible. I wouldn't recommend it at all. Its only saving grace is they claim, they have dyno videos, that it adds like 25 or 30 horsepower. Now, it didn't really feel any faster to me. I just can't stand the way it sounds. And it actually sounds very similar to the open exhaust Challenge ones, because that's basically what it is. It's 2 individual straight pipes with no mixing, no Y pipe in there. And that for some reason, that just doesn't sound very good. So actually my number 2 favorite is the Larini exhaust. And the Larini exhaust also has a pretty high pitch, maybe not quite as high pitch as the Capristo, but it has this nice boomy sound to it, especially when you shift, that I think just sounds great. Its idle sound sounds a little bit more, I don't know, masculine, I guess, than maybe the stock exhaust. And it doesn't sound like a little, Honda idling or whatever. And I really like the way that sound. I ran that one probably the longest. So next I'll talk about the Tubi. I've heard it a couple times in real life, but basically it has a nice deep sound to it. It does get up in the higher pitches, and it's a little bit more raspy than the other ones. And so it's a popular one, but I think pretty much everybody's moved on from Tubis, at least when you track them price-wise. When you go to sell a Tubi, people were selling them for like $1,200. When they go sell a used Capristo, if they ever showed up, they'd be going for like $3,000, $3,500, almost what they went for new. So definitely people then prefer those Capristos. Now the MS Racing is one of the rare ones because it's a Japanese company and they're pretty much only sold in Japan unless you're able to buy it on eBay and bring it over here. I think one guy did, but a lot of them I've seen, they actually have the bypass valve completely removed off of it, so they just run it with no bypass, which means you have to modify the manifold. So they're hard to find, but they do have probably the highest pitch F1 scream out of all of them. And so if you can find one of those, I think the MS Racing is a pretty good buy. At least you kind of be the only one with it. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope this video kind of cleared up some things with the 355. And I got to go check if I have any more 355 videos I have not released yet. Thanks for watching, guys.